Hey guys, so I'm going to try to make a video for you with the notes. Hopefully that'll be a little easier. I know some people prefer hearing over reading, so this is a trial run, I guess. We'll talk about cloning today. So, you don't have to actually subscribe to anything. It's fine. But I figure it was a classic YouTube thing. Hey, I wasn't ready yet. Okay. So yesterday you guys started with the differences between asexual and sexual reproduction. Asexual, okay, is one parent. I like to think of this as like A is the first letter of the alphabet, and there's one parent. And then sexual reproduction, as you probably guessed, is both two parents. Okay, that's how we as humans reproduce, and a lot of the animal kingdom reproduces. You guys learned when you read about meiosis, okay, that gametes are made, and they contain half the genetic material from each parent, and this creates variety and diversity in the species. So that's why we don't look exactly like our siblings or exactly like other humans unless you're identical twins, which we will cover in this. And in asexual organisms, they do not vary. Okay, so that's why things like bacteria can infect us and multiply and make us more sick, is because there's more of them and they're identical. Okay, so that could be a good thing for them or a bad thing for them, right? If they carry a disorder, then that will be just passed down to the offspring. Whereas in humans, you have a lower chance of getting a genetic disorder based on Punnett squares, which you guys have seen in the past. So we'll look at those two when we get to genetics. So there's two types of cloning, but they both have the same basis. You take a body cell, and then you put different genetic material in to get the result that you want. So one of them is the reproductive cloning, which you really don't see that often. It's more just for scientists to study genetics. But Dolly the sheep is one of the most famous cases of cloning, because they were able to make an identical sheep to one of the parents, and we'll look at a graphic in that in a minute. And then there's therapeutic cloning, which is far more popular, I guess you could say, because it's used in medicine. So if I have bad liver cells, and they want to try to repair my liver, they can take either stem cells or cells off different parts of my body and put in the material that's needed for the liver in order to either grow back the organ or repair the damaged cells. And this can create some ethical concerns, especially the reproductive cloning. And that's because some people feel like it's messing with the nature of science and kind of disrupting evolution. There's also some religious concerns that some religions have with cloning. So when we talk about therapeutic cloning, you get a disease-free cell from either a donor or a different part of the body. Okay, and then you can transfer the genetic material from a different cell into an egg cell, so it can start to reproduce. Okay, and then the stem cells will grow on a plate, and eventually to the point where it can be put into the patient. Or you can either go the other route, which is taking that already made cell and then just putting the genetic material in stem cells without the egg cell. Because remember, stem cells are blank cells that can become any type of cell. And this sounds simple, but there's still a lot of research going on with this. And I think they're actually using it for COVID-19 now as well, stem cell research. So we said about Dolly the sheep here. So in a step-by-step process, the first sheep, okay, is the donor sheep. A body cell is removed, okay, from this guy here, okay? They took a mammary cell. So they grew the cell enough, and then they put that cell into the egg donor, okay? So they take the nucleus out of the egg cell, so it's kind of like a blank cell. And then they inject the genetic material into the egg, and now that the egg cell has they use the egg cell because it goes through rapid mitosis. Okay, same thing like when an egg is fertilized in a living cell, in a living body. Okay, once they're fused together and the early embryo begins to grow, okay, the clone cell the embryo gets transplanted into the third sheep. Okay, so this would be like the surrogate mother, kind of how people who have trouble getting pregnant themselves use a third person to deliver their baby for them. Shout out to Kim Kardashian. Just kidding. I mean, not really, but yeah. Clone sheep is then born, okay? And this would be genetically identical to this sheep. Why is that? Well, this sheep donated its genetic material. All 23 pairs of chromosomes went into this blank cell, okay? Now I don't have a writing pad, so I will try to, oh, you know what, that's not bad, actually. Okay, pretty bad, but if you guys have seen my writing on the whiteboard, it's not too far off. So when you put something into a blank cell, it's going to use the genetic material from the nucleus of the donated cell. It's kind of like a photocopy, except you need 3 components to it. So, looking at some questions, which sheep does the baby cloned sheep Dolly share the exact same genetic code with? Well, like we said, it was the donor of the body cell, because the body cell has the complete genome that's going into the blank egg. So if you guys recall when we did the nervous system, the nervous cells can't go through mitosis like the rest of our body system can. So why is therapeutic cloning a promise for treating disorders like Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis? Okay, they both offer a way to repair the damaged tissue without risk of injection by the body's immune system. Okay, so you could take stem cells, okay, and remember when we talk about those markers in the circulatory system on the red blood cells, okay, those are going to be produced by the identical DNA that's in other parts of the body. So the diagram below represents a single cell organism, A, dividing by mitosis to form cells B and C. So when you guys see mitosis, you should automatically think identical. Oh God, I'm sorry. Identical. Okay. In terms of DNA. So cells A, B, and C are produce protein X. What can be best inferred from this observation? Shows protein X is found in all organisms. Well, that's kind of hard to say because we don't know what the protein is. Okay, the gene for protein X is found in single-celled organisms only. We can't say that either. We do share a lot of genetic material with single-celled organisms. Cells A, B, and C ingested food containing the gene to produce protein X. Probably not, right? Because genes we're born with. We don't acquire genes from things that we eat. Okay, the gene to produce protein X was passed from cells A to B and C. Okay, so this is the correct answer. And the reason why is because this has a copy of the gene for protein X, and because they share identical genomes, okay, the offspring will also have it. An environment that undergoes frequent change, species that reproduce sexually may have an advantage over species that reproduce asexually because the sexually reproducing species produce. Okay, so typically asexual organisms produce more offspring. I can find a video of that for you guys to watch. It's quite interesting. So we're talking about frequent change here. Frequent change. We'll talk more about this when we get to evolution. But like as we know, as we said before, sexually reproducing species do not have identical offspring. Okay, this is the asexual species. Offspring with more variety. Okay, so as we saw in our first couple of slides, or our first slide, right, we do see more variety in sexually reproducing organisms, and when an environment is constantly changing, you have a better chance to survive that, or the offspring of the species have a better chance to survive that if they're changing and they happen to acquire a mutation that makes it easier for them to survive in that environment, okay, which is less likely to happen in asexual reproduction because they have identical offspring. Okay, new species of offspring in each generation. That answer doesn't quite make sense, and but we'll talk more about that when we get to evolution. So that's it for today. If you guys want to leave a comment, let me know what you think of this compared to what we've been doing, or just the blank notes without the recording. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you want me to keep it up, you know, you can like the video or email me, or smash that like and subscribe button. All right, so you guys have a good day. I hope everyone is safe and well, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you towards the end of the year.